The Cunard ship RMS Saxonia docked in Quebec City, August 1, 1956, and the Coulter family, Vic, Marie, and 3 children, boarded the CN train to cross Canada. 5 days later, we were dropped off in New Westminster, not knowing one soul in Canada. Vic had a teaching job lined up with School District 43. Mercifully, a secretary in the school district office remarked to her husband that a family from Ireland were arriving today, but nothing had been done about it. They were the Crawfords and were among the first people we met. They were both waiting at the station in New Westminster to welcome us. We had been led to believe that a house would be provided by the school district. The Crawfords drove us to the Lazy River Motel, located at Hastings Street and Lougheed Highway, where we found a room. They then took us to a corner store to buy basic foods. I remember that night, our youngest Nicholas had to sleep on 2 chairs pushed together. Sunday morning dawned. We wakened to the sound of church bells. Vic took the 2 older children and, following the sound of bells, crossed some railway tracks and found their way to downtown, where a resident directed them to Trinity United. The church bells? It was the CPR. The church didn't have a steeple. We were warmly welcomed, and that was the beginning of almost 7 decades of great friendships and wonderful memories. We were invited for meals. Furniture was given to us, and other items given or lent to us. Vic and I joined in helping out at the church. I helped in the thrift store, and Vic ran the Sunday school. He became an elder and visited people in hospital or at Hawthorne Lodge. For years, I collected money for the Fellowship of the Least Coin. I joined a UCW group called the Esters. In more recent years, we met at my apartment when I wasn't able to get out and about so easily. The Esters were a wonderful group of ladies, and we enjoyed our meetings very much. And they always helped with the cleanup afterwards. Our first 3 weeks here were hectic, finding our way around, looking for a house and the necessities to furnish it, schools for the children. The Crawfords were more than kind, running us around, introducing us to others who were just as helpful. One family, the Brands, sight unseen, offered their home while they went on holiday. Can you imagine? We were in and out of their home for 2 weeks and never saw them. Wesley Nixon was the minister at the time, and his wife was Mary. They were lovely people and made us feel at home right away. They moved away a couple of years later, but always stayed in touch, and we got together whenever they were in town. They had a daughter named Dawn. The only house being built in Port Coquitlam at the time was finished for us. We moved in with the help from the congregation on the day the Brands returned. We couldn't have been happier to meet so many kind and friendly people. It made us feel we had made the right choice to come to Canada.
My mother worked at Riverview before she was married, so she started at Riverview in about 1938, working in the lab there. So she already knew Port Coquitlam area and Trinity United Church. So
my family was part of Trinity United Church before I was born, and I was baptized into the congregation, although the baptism didn't take place at the church. And I went to Sunday school all through growing up, and Explorers and CGIT and junior choir and aunt. So I was in the congregation for all my growing up. It was my church.
Well, it was very much a family church. We had two separate services. We had a Sunday school service that ran from 10 to about 10:45, 10:50. Then we all got out, and the adult service ran from 11 till noon. So if you had a family like mine that were active in both, Sunday mornings you'd get to church around 9:30 and probably get out there around 12:30.
The pictures of the church on Shaughnessy, the thing I remember most is all the stairs at the front. I've never been very tall in my entire life, and my legs are short. And having to go up all those stairs as a child, I remember the stairs.
Port Coquitlam was very much a divided city from the north side and the south side, because there was the railway tracks and there was the low-heat highway. And kids on the south side went to schools, elementary schools down here. Kids on the north side went to elementary schools up there. So we never crossed paths other than at Sunday school. So I would meet the kids from the north side or the kids from the south side.
I certainly remember being, as I grew up, where you could have your Sunday school class, because the little kids got to be in the main part of the basement, and we were all divided up into groups. But as you got to be a young teen or teenager, you got to go into the rooms at the back, which was a rather rickety piece of building that had been added on to the building. And it was up a bunch of more stairs. And you had some privacy as opposed to a whole bunch of kids all in the same place.
I guess young teens, the church had midweek programs. So we had, for boys, it was Tyros and then Sigma C, and the girls had Explorers and CJIT, and we were active in all of that.
It was in CJIT, Canadian Girls in Training, so that when I was a teenager, we didn't have a very big group. So if you wanted to do anything, you had to join into other groups. And I learned that you could have a great deal of fun and interest by going and visiting other places and being part of a wider group. And you're talking to the committed when you says, oh, there's a meeting, there's going to be a convention, there's going to be a going to Banff where the Western Women's Conference. Hey, I'm in. It's no problem. I learned that when I was about 13, and I've kept doing it my entire life.
My mother in the old church, she was the teacher for the nursery school, the kindergarten.
Right.
And on a Sunday morning, she could have 30 kids.
Well, the building, of course, had the basement. And that's where a lot of the Sunday school was at that time. I don't know. They housed 400 kids, to be honest, there. But we, of course, we were upstairs at the choir at that time. Barry Cliff was there, I believe, the organist, and Laura Aitken followed him. And before they went to Trinity in '66, I think they went to the new church.
So the point of moving here was that the old church, the one on Shaughnessy, was old, and it really, really had to have something done with it. It was either tear down, rebuild there, or move somewhere else and sell the property. And that seemed to be the final idea, that they would sell the property, and that investment would buy the land here and be able to build, as hoped for, a new design and more useful space than what was in the church on Shaughnessy. Also, if we find it somewhere in the pictures, there is a picture of my father on one of the beams in the sanctuary before the roof is on. So these people were up on these beams varnishing them. And they did such a good job, they've never been redone. But there's a picture of Dad up on the very, very top with as this building is being built. And he was involved in that. They all were, everybody was involved in that.
Our kids all went to Sunday school at Trinity.
Right.
It was still pretty big, and it was still active. It wasn't in a way, well, it could have been very crowded some Sundays, but it wasn't like the old church where you were just packed in. It wasn't youth versus senior. It was a sort of a more modern type hymns and things service earlier,
Right.
and then the traditional later.
Learning to be good citizens and ethical people. That's what the church did for me. And that's why I wanted my daughter to have that kind of education. So when my daughter turned 3, like I said, I wanted her to experience a church. That's what I told people. Actually, I really wanted to come back. The first Sunday I came to Trinity, I lived quite close, so it was close enough to be quite easy. The processional hymn was Morning Has Broken.
So as a kid in the other church, we had a junior choir, and that's largely because, well, we had people who were willing to do the leading, but we also had enough youngsters to have a music program. And those things have shifted over the years. When we came to this church at the beginning, there was a junior choir. There was for many years junior choir. There has always been a strong senior choir ministry in this community of Trinity United Church.
What we did anthems, of course. I don't remember at that time moving on to other churches, but during the course of my tenure, we used to go to other churches and exchange. Like with there was a couple of churches I remember, the Evangelical was one. And their choir came to us and we went there. I'm not sure if the minister went as well, but yeah, we did a few things like that. It was interesting.
And again, if there are opportunities to go and sing somewhere, yeah, let's go there as a group and do it together. When I came back to Canada in 1978, I joined the choir because I'm a choir singer. I have been my entire life. I'm not a soloist. I sing in choirs, and having the opportunity to sing in church choir was another form of coming home, and it's been part of my home ever since.
Not long after we emigrated to Port Coquitlam in 1956, there was a house fire near the church on Shaughnessy Street at White Avenue, which left a large family homeless and bereft. Trinity's congregation, under the leadership of the energetic Reverend Nixon, sprang into action. Appeals were put out and the collection began. The Men's Club worked diligently, driving around the Lower Mainland, picking up furniture, clothing, and everything else that goes into a home. Very quickly, the family had all they could use, and like the parable of the loaves and fishes, the excess was stored in the basement of Albert and Maida Smith's new home. It was a good thing the basement was unfinished, for the goods were piled ceiling high. And as Maida attests, after it was all over, they had to call in the fumigators. Shortly thereafter, a giant jumble sale was held in front of the church. Tables and racks lined the sidewalk, and larger objects displayed on the grass. There was great camaraderie in small-town Poco. The proceeds all went to the stricken family.
It's always been very involved in supporting the needs of the community, particularly when it comes to the needs of people who are less fortunate
Right.
than the rest of us.
Helping through church and serving through church. That is what the church was about. The church was about community. I believe Trinity has always been that. And I believe that There has been times when Trinity has been on the cutting edge.
Many of the situations that have happened here over the years are ones where we offer space to groups who need it. So 12-step, we have had Al-Anon for a long time. We've had Narcotics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous.
I love the fact that we have the food bank, that we're associated with the food bank. I think thrift is tremendously popular, and that's a huge amount of work, but that's a great community organization. We provide rooms at an affordable price for all sorts of community groups in the evenings that probably couldn't afford to exist without us in many ways.
My job, if I call it a job, my volunteer time has been to keep Trinity here, to help finance, encourage, support the ability of Trinity United Church to be a welcoming space for people to come.
It's community. It's nurturing community would be the words that I would use.
I was in the United Church Women in the Rachel unit for maybe 14 years. And I worked at the thrift shop for 50. I worked in that until, I don't know, until I couldn't stand to, well, I guess to do that.
Like many other women, I started teaching Sunday school. Betty McLean, bless her soul, was my daughter's first Sunday school teacher and has been around for all this time and walked with me. I became involved with First Sunday School and then UCW. I was one of about maybe a dozen people around my age, women around my age, who took on the 5th UCW unit here called the Marys. On Monday nights, we would get together and Wilf would come out of his office into this area and say, "There's too much laughing in here." We had a wonderful time getting to know each other. That UCW group became my mentors, along with the mentors of the older UCW groups.
When I was 15, the minister who was here was Art Griffin, and his wife is Pearl Griffin. Pearl was an absolute dynamo. There wasn't a thing that wonderful woman couldn't do, and she was the most gracious host. Everyone who came through the door, she knew who they would be very quickly, and she would remember them. She would be part of any decision making quietly, firmly, supportively.
Trinity gave me connection with the greater good. It also gave me laughter and tears and all those things that happen with spiritual nurture. I feel very blessed to be a part of this. When I felt called to ministry, those same people that had been my mentors surrounded me with love and challenge, caring, compassion, helped me through that 5 years of intense study from 2004 till 2009.
The women of our congregation have always been very strong, and there have been some very strong women here. And the United Church Women, now UCW, began with, again, with that strong leadership. One of the original second vice president was a woman from this congregation, Irene Newsom. And so that tradition has survived. When I came home back to Trinity in 1978, the women, the United Church Women's Group, was where I found my home. I don't have any sisters. I have two brothers, but these are my sisters. And the women of my mother's UCW group were my extra mothers. They were, I could have called on any of them if I was in need of something or just to chat.
I feel like I'm home when I'm at Trinity. When my daughter came into town with her baby, she didn't want to go to another church. She wanted to come to Trinity and show her baby to people because they held her, some of these people, and it was beautiful to watch.
Those women were part of my family. And I just was searching for that when I came home to a new place with a new husband and trying to redefine myself as a person here. So my church family has become my extended family, and the United Church Women have done that.
When I finished my studies, I settled in Victoria for 12 years until my retirement, and then came back here to Port Coquitlam following my retirement and reconnected with people who had been my mentors and my friends and my loves. And I still, every Friday, spend time with coffee with these wonderful people. I still am nurtured by Trinity.